If there's one thing we've learned about video games through the decades, it's that all of them are eventually beaten. It may take some time, but ultimately the player is supposed to win, most of the time at least. While some bosses lay down and die, others go out in a blaze of glory. Then there's others that fall in violently epic ways because a simple death is too good for them. Let's take a look at 10 of the most epic video game boss deaths in history. Metal Gear Ray, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Armstrong's death is constantly brought up as one of the more epic boss deaths in video games. And don't get us wrong, it's a great choice, but there's also the massacre of Metal Gear Ray at the start of the game. Essentially, Raiden goes one-on-one against it, systematically taking it apart. As the music builds and he dodges lasers and gunfire, he then proceeds to toss it into the sky before dicing it apart and splitting it right down the center before it explodes all around him. If any sequence could leave such a huge first impression, it's this one. Leonhardt, The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky. Though one of the main villains in Trails in the Sky SC, Leonhardt's story is one of tragedy. Instituted by none other than the main antagonist Wiseman, but despite being wounded by the latter near the end, Leonhardt doesn't roll over and die. He uses his Reverie Dragon to help clear the way for Estelle and Joshua before breaking through Wiseman's barrier and creating an opportunity for the group to take him down. The downside is that he would be fatally wounded, as Auriel collapses around them. Nevertheless, his sword would be laid to rest in Hamel, ensuring he found some measure of peace at last. Baldur, God of War 2018. After a grueling fight which includes Tamr colliding with the World Serpent and Kratos and Atreus going back and forth with Baldur, it ends in perhaps the most satisfying way possible, Kratos backing down. Baldur was beaten after all, as Atreus helpfully reminded him. And there was no need to kill him. Of course, Baldur being Baldur decided to persist in killing Freya. Kratos would have none of this, however, and proceeded to snap Baldur's neck to Freya's horror. It seems so simple, and everything leading up to his death felt epic, to say nothing of the events afterwards. Liquid Snake, Metal Gear Solid.
Let's finish this before the airstrike.
You have to hand it to Liquid Snake. Despite Metal Gear Rex being heavily damaged, he survived its explosion, dragged Solid Snake on top of it, and proceeded to fight to the death. The stakes were immeasurably high, with the facility set to be bombed and Meryl attached to a timed explosive. Fortunately, Snake emerged victorious, knocking Liquid off of a bipedal tank. But it wasn't over yet. As Meryl and Snake made their escape from the facility by jeep, Liquid returned yet again, determined to hunt them down. After escaping the facility and both vehicles crashing, he would be heavily wounded, but could still walk and fight. It was only until the Fox-Die virus kicked in, finally ending his life once and for all, that Liquid stopped. Guardian Ape, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Of all the bosses fought in Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, the Guardian Ape is probably the most unexpected. You take on various monkeys and dispatch them with ease. Sure, this ape looks tough, but how bad could it be? It then proceeds to Oonga Boonga you into oblivion, leaping, slamming, and tossing the player around when it's not throwing poop. Its first death is pretty badass, as Sekiro slices its head off with the blade embedded within. Unfortunately, due to its immortality, the ape continues fighting, using both the blade and its head to fight even more erratically. Eventually, the centipede responsible for its immortality is dragged out of its body and executed, leading to the Guardian Ape going down, at least for the moment. SHARA ISHVALDA, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. For those who felt Nergiganti was shafted in the base game, the final boss in Iceborne's story provided some great redemption for our thorny boy. After Ruiner Nergigante was defeated by the player, they immediately went on to fight the old Everworm, aka SHARA ISHVALDA. It's a grueling fight, as one breaks apart its body of boulders and must then battle it in its twisted true form. The fight only becomes tougher from here as it attacks with its wings and claws, sending out beams or air pressure, causing earthquakes and even unleashing a massive spirit bomb onto the arena. When SHARA finally falls, it seems that everything is fine until it rises again, but suddenly Nergigante re-emerges, lays the smackdown on SHARA, takes a few bites out of it, and flies off. Truly a way to go. Nemesis, Resident Evil 3, 2020.
Have you ever seen anything so incredible? The data on this would be worth millions. But, you know how it is. City's about to explode, and you can't put a price on life.
The Nemesis undergoes some radical mutations throughout Resident Evil 3, culminating in its transformation into a giant thing in the climax. Everything that Jill has tried thus far hasn't worked. Fortunately, she discovers an experimental railgun, which deals some serious damage. It needs to be recharged after the first shot, but after the second, Jill proceeds to jam the weapon into the monster's mouth and blast it into oblivion with a point-blank shot, killing it for good. Yaldabaoth, Persona 5. The final hours of Persona 5 are an immense trip. The metaverse has fused with the real world, and the Phantom Thieves have been forgotten. Igor in the Velvet Room wasn't Igor but Yaldabaoth this entire time. Yaldabaoth is the treasure of the Mementos, who's become sentient and pretty much robbed humanity of all control. Of course, Joker rejects this and fights him along with the other Phantom Thieves. All seems lost until the people rally around the group, causing Joker's ultimate persona to awaken. To the surprise of absolutely no one, it wields a massive gun. After uttering the word "begone," Joker shoots Yaldabaoth in the head, freeing humanity at last.
Begone.
Preposterous! You dare honor people's wishes!
Heisenberg, Resident Evil Village.
Before I kill you. Let's settle this. Man, a man.
Resident Evil Village is a pretty compact story experience, but it takes some wild turns near the climax. After traipsing through a factory of machine creatures called Soldats, players fight the man himself. Except he turns into a hulking machine colossus. Not to worry though, as Ethan has a battle tank to fight him with. Eventually, when lifted into a tornado of metal, Ethan hops back into the tank, fires explosives at Heisenberg in midair, and manages to kill him in an epic display. And to think, that isn't even how the game ends. Nightmare Bringer, Nioh 2: The First Samurai. The story behind Otakamaru, the final boss of Nioh 2, is fairly hefty and culminates in the final story DLC, The First Samurai. It's here that protagonist Hide battles the Nightmare Bringer, a stronger version of Otakamaru that wields its three swords with even greater fury. Upon whittling down its health and unleashing the Sanmyo sword, it isn't just cut 1 or 2 times, no, the Nightmare Bringer gets sliced from the torso up before taking a massive downward slash and finally being slain. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.